Welcome to this deep dive where we take a stack of sources, or in today's case, a single unforgettable narrative, and we really try to extract the insights that stick with you, long after the story is over. Our material today is, well, it's truly unique. We are diving into this powerful, almost cinematic story written by Swapnil, and it charts one woman's journey through, this consuming love, a devastating loss, and then the dramatic, painful, but utterly necessary road to self-discovery.
That's exactly right. Our mission today is to function less like, say, literary critics and more like emotional archaeologists.
Oh, I like that. Emotional archaeologist.
Yeah. We're tracing this incredible emotional arc.
Uh-huh.
We're analyzing a deeply personal account, which starts framed by this shared moment around a campfire. And the central conflict, the paradox that just drives the entire story, is how love can be. Well, in the character's own words, the most beautiful and the most dangerous thing in the world.
All at the same time.
All at the same time. So we aren't just summarizing the plot points of Mira and Arjun's relationship. We really have to unpack why those moments of, ultimate breakage were the precise mechanism required for her eventual growth, for her wholeness.
It's a gorgeous blueprint, really a guide to understanding how passion and self-sacrifice can ultimately become, mutually exclusive.
So we begin this deep dive high in the mountains around a bonfire where a character named Ananya is preparing to sort of shed her present identity and reveal this tumultuous 5-year saga of her past life as Mira, detailing her transformative relationship with Arjun in the heart of Mumbai. We're going to move chronologically from that instantaneous spark of college romance to the devastating clash of priorities, and then finally to the quiet, earned peace of true closure.
And the opening is just instantly powerful. It sets the emotional temperature perfectly. Swapnil doesn't just describe a location, they create a stage. You have these tall, jagged mountains, the snowy peaks, the dense pine trees swaying and whispering secrets.
This natural landscape is so vast and cold, and it sort of suggests the indifferent scale of the world around them.
But the real anchor, the emotional heart of it, is the bonfire itself, that brilliant, flickering symbol of the warmth and energy only humans could create. It's this temporary, vulnerable pocket of heat and light set against a massive, cold backdrop.
Exactly.
It tells you immediately that this story isn't about geography. It's about raw, concentrated human emotion and the temporary sanctuary of connection.
Precisely. And it also signals the inherent danger in that warmth, right? You can get too close to the fire and you can get burned.
For sure.
It signals that this truth Ananya is about to tell is an ancient one, illuminated by a transient light. It acts as the perfect narrative device, illuminating everything that follows, every memory, every scent, every sound of the Mumbai monsoon. It's all being filtered through this current moment of fire and truth.
Okay, so let's jump right into that narrative structure. Act 1. The bonfire, the Polaroid, and the spark of perspective. We are drawn immediately to Ananya, the storyteller, separated slightly from her friends by the weight of her own history.
And she's physically present, but you can tell she's emotionally anchored somewhere else entirely. We find her holding a cold mug of masala chai, clinging to it almost desperately, maybe trying to replicate that initial warmth of the bonfire.
Right, trying to hold on to something.
And then we see the artifact, a faded, curling Polaroid photo. And what's so interesting is that it's not a picture of Arjun. It's of her friends, Rohan and Priya, laughing over Paratha.
A happy memory.
A happy memory, but it's a static memory. A perfect frozen moment in time she seems completely unable to leave behind.
Right. She's clinging to the idea of a simpler, happier past that may not even involve the story she's about to tell, but just the time before she had to carry this knowledge, this weight. Rohan and the others, in their, relaxed state, they notice this emotional tension. They note that she seems stuck in the past. And then we get that incredible detail, the physical scar, the single silver streak in Ananya's otherwise black hair.
That silver streak is just a phenomenal piece of symbolic storytelling from Swapnil. It is the physical manifestation of the intense story hidden within her. It shows us that her transformation into Ananya wasn't some easy, quiet transition.
No.
It was a violent, painful event that left a permanent, visible mark. It's the visual record of the emotional cost she paid to gain the wisdom she's about to share.
The atmosphere then shifts when Rohan challenges the group to move past jokes and share real stories, the kind that stays with you, the ones you'll still remember when you're old and gray. He's basically demanding authenticity and vulnerability.
He is. He's pushing Ananya into the narrative space she's clearly been avoiding.
And she accepts it, but with this clear-eyed wisdom. She defines the story not as a tragedy or a success, but as a paradox.
Wow.
What does she say? Two people who were perfect for each other and completely wrong at the same time.
And that just establishes the inherent tension right there. It's unforgettable, yes, but the ultimate wisdom, the core philosophical insight that really guides our deep dive, is the theme she offers. The things that break us are the very things that make us whole.
Wow.
It's this idea that emotional shattering is not a sign of failure, but actually a prerequisite for structural integrity, for becoming who you're meant to be.
So to understand the breaking, we have to understand the foundational self that was shattered. And this takes us back 5 years to Mira Desai, the woman Ananya used to be, and her all-consuming first love, photography. This wasn't just a passion for her, it was a birthright, a legacy learned from her father in Bandra.
And the father's philosophy is where the seeds of the entire conflict are planted. His perspective wasn't about f-stops or shutter speeds, it was existential. The world isn't just what you see, it's what you choose to see. He taught her that a picture's value wasn't in its technical perfection, but in its truth. He told her, the imperfect moments, they have the best stories to tell.
I love that. And he cemented this with that analogy, the one that connects her art directly to her vulnerability. A camera is like a heart. It captures what matters most. It doesn't just show what's in front of you, it shows what you feel.
Which means Mira's commitment to photography is therefore a commitment to authenticity and raw emotion over structure or formula or any kind of external expectation.
And this is the first real clue about why Arjun's structured, ambitious world is eventually going to clash so violently with hers.
And then we get that subtle, almost uncomfortable foreshadowing the secret in her father's wallet. The black and white photo of an unknown woman with a faraway look in her eyes. It represents an inherited, unnamed heartache.
He calls it a lesson, one I hope you never have to learn.
Exactly. So it suggests that the pursuit of authenticity, the very passion Mira inherits, is inherently linked to this complex history of relational pain. The father's unspoken wound foreshadows the one that Mira will eventually have to endure herself.
The tension is so palpable as we move into the actual meeting. Mira is at St. Xavier's College in South Bombay during the famous Malhar Festival. She is burdened not just by the physical weight of her father's heavy Nikon F3.
Right, it's more than just the weight of the camera.
It's the weight of his expectations of capturing perfection. The camera feels heavier than just a camera.
And then the symbolic collision occurs, the meat fight. She is meticulously arranging the perfect golden hour shot a boy in a Superman cape chasing bubbles, which is this beautiful metaphor for fleeting, innocent aspiration.
And Arjun just ruins it. He ruins it instantly by waving papers wildly. Mira, who is so focused on capturing this beautiful masterpiece, is furious.
And Arjun, in his white kurta, he's the personification of disruption and uncontained chaos. And his first line to her is, "Didn't know I was interrupting your masterpiece."
The sarcasm. But it's the conflict, a microcosm, isn't it? Mira values the masterpiece, the perfect emotional moment. Arjun values the immediate, lived, messy reality, the papers, the festival, the disruption.
But the shift comes immediately after the fight. He makes a move to bridge that gap.
He does.
Yes, the turning point is the offering of 2 cups of cutting chai. It's warm, spicy, and it's perfectly Mumbai, a simple restorative gesture. And he says, "You look like you could use a do-over."
He saw past the angry photographer to the frustrated young woman, and that act of empathy just melts her initial fury.
And Arjun follows this up by revealing his secret, his version of the chosen view. He takes her up this narrow, hidden staircase to a rooftop, his personal best sunset spot in South Bombay.
It's an act of shared discovery, of trust. It establishes their initial intimacy, which is built on seeing the world from this shared, unique vantage point.
And the final image of that chapter is just so key for the whole narrative. Mira snaps one last picture of the 2 empty chai cups sitting side by side on the bench.
Right, not the sunset, not them. The empty cups.
The empty cups. And she realizes instantly that the picture isn't technically perfect, but she thinks to herself, but real. And this cements the foundation of their love, an appreciation for the messy, imperfect reality of their connection, valuing truth over the staged perfection she was trained to seek. That authentic spark is their beginning.
Okay, so moving into Act 2, we enter the period of perceived perfection, set against the quintessential backdrop of Mumbai during the monsoon. And I have to say, Swapnil uses the weather just masterfully to reflect the inner emotional landscape of their intense shared world.
Oh, absolutely. The monsoon is initially pure magic. It slows the entire city down, enveloping everything in a soft, peaceful haze. We get that fantastic sensory detail. The smell of wet pavement mixed with the salty sea air wrapping around Mira like an old familiar song. It was the smell of Mumbai's soul.
That's beautiful.
It is. This is the atmosphere of their shared paradise, where the rest of the world just fades away.
And they establish those beautiful, intimate, shared rituals that cement their bond, walking with that awkwardly shared umbrella.
Where he always gets soaked.
Right. He repeatedly sacrifices his own dryness, getting completely wet, specifically to shield her camera, which is such a powerful early detail of him prioritizing her art.
It is. And the ritual of eating warm, spicy vada pav, where Arjun refuses to sit because it's not real if you sit.
Which leads to the playful chutney stain incident. These are the details of messy, real, connected love. They're in their own little bubble.
But this is where we begin the critical analysis of the slow shift, the unspoken mounting pressure. Arjun, despite all the romance, is becoming increasingly focused on the future that's been prescribed for him. Numbers, promotions, and deadlines.
And his father's invisible presence, that warning of no distractions, it's a constant weight on him.
It is. And Mira's simple dreams of just capturing light and emotions start to feel increasingly fragile next to his highly structured linear world of corporate ambition.
The ideological clash then surfaces explicitly when Mira receives a rejection from a big photography contest. Arjun tries to comfort her, but the attempt just falls flat.
Because he approaches it as a problem to be solved with a formula. If you just work hard, it will eventually fall into place. For Mira, the rejection feels personal. It feels like a failure of her instinct and her feeling, which can't be fixed with a simple checklist.
So his attempt to comfort her is really an attempt to impose his own framework onto her life. He inadvertently suggests that her art lacks the quantifiable, measurable certainty of his career path.
And this feeds directly into the first signs of control and insecurity. Arjun starts questioning her friendships, Ravi's motives. He brings up the guy from your photography class.
And this is where the dynamic really turns cold. Mira, in that classic response to emotional manipulation, starts rationalizing his jealousy as intense protective care. She tells herself his fear of losing her is just a sign of how deeply he loves her.
But Swapnil is very precise in describing the reality of it. She feels a cold feeling settle between them. This tightness, this suffocating control is beginning to replace the genuine warmth they had.
This leads to a critical psychological point. Mira starts drowning in self-deceit. She introduces small lies, fell asleep, battery died, just lies of omission, really.
Just to create space.
Exactly. Simply to avoid fighting and create enough space to breathe. But she's compromising her authenticity. She's shrinking herself in this desperate attempt to keep the peace.
The consequence of that suppression just manifests completely in Chapter 3. Cracks become canyons. The pressure culminates in the night of the missed company dinner. She was physically ready to leave, but the spontaneous beauty of the city lights reflected off the rain-soaked streets, it pulled her back.
The artist in her took over.
It did. The need to capture that fleeting moment of authentic beauty was prioritized over her required performance as Arjun's supportive partner.
And Arjun, who is, rightly feeling slighted, delivers the accusation that reveals the depth of their misalignment. I just want to feel like I matter to you. He doesn't see her art as part of her.
No, he sees it as a rival. He tells her he feels like he's merely a pause between you and your next photo shoot. He has fundamentally failed to integrate her passion into his vision of their life together.
And this escalates to the breaking point warning, the truly chilling question he poses. If I stopped calling, stopped chasing, would you even notice?
Oof.
This forces Mira to confront the terrifying silence within herself. She can't answer because she genuinely doesn't know. She is so lost in the attempt to fulfill his needs and balance her own suffocated truth that she's lost sight of her own core desire.
And yet, they attempt the temporary classic Band-Aid fix. Arjun appears outside her hostel, soaked and shivering, using raw emotional vulnerability to pull her back in. He whispers that devastating line, "I don't know how to be without you."
Which, of course, appeals to her sense of responsibility. It makes her feel essential to his survival.
Mira lets herself believe this messy, complicated, high-drama love is enough. She confuses shared pain with enduring connection. But the source text gives us the final prophetic realization that serves as a core lesson for anyone listening.
When had love started to feel like drowning? And that's the question, right? When the feeling of a shared life transforms into suffocation, when seeking space feels like a necessity for survival rather than just a choice, the relationship is already functionally over, regardless of the emotional intensity.
Wow, yeah. That brings us to Act 3, the critical turning point. The reckoning and the shatter. The immediate aftermath of that temporary fix is this spiral of self-sabotage. Mira realizes she's living a life that is devoid of color and vibrancy.
Her photography career doesn't just stall, it actively crumbles. Her beloved professional gear, the Hasselblad, the Canon 5D, they are untouched, just gathering dust. The tools of her authentic self are completely neglected.
And the text says she is too numb to stop it. She's paralyzed not just by general inertia, but specifically by the fear of pursuing a path that will inevitably lead to conflict with Arjun.
And here is the devastating irony that Swapnil presents. The greatest opportunity of her life was already knocking. Her friend Priya, noticing Mira's decay, forces her to confront her unread emails.
And in there is the invitation to the Emerging Photographers Showcase Paris exhibit. The biggest chance to realize her potential was just sitting there, ignored, because she had internalized Arjun's disapproval to such an extent that she literally stopped looking for opportunities.
She preemptively sacrificed her own future to preserve a flawed present. We have to pause on the psychological weight of this. She didn't fail to get the invitation. She failed to open the email.
Which signifies the complete diminishing of her self-worth. It's heartbreaking. She had shrunk her world down to the size of her relationship, believing that success outside of it was dangerous.
This leads to the darkroom confrontation, a place that should represent creation and revelation, but now smells of thick, acrid chemicals and emotional claustrophobia.
And Arjun walks in and delivers the ultimate reductive insult to her entire philosophy, her entire being. He says, "It's just photography, Mira. It's not like you're saving lives."
Oof, he just dismisses her art, her soul, because it doesn't fit into his quantifiable value system.
That is the moment where she is forced to confront the truth. And she admits she is afraid, not of failing in Paris, but of leaving him. The control he exerted was only possible because of her own deeply rooted fear of stepping out into the unknown and standing alone as the successful, autonomous woman she was meant to be.
That false honesty attempts to save the relationship, but it only sets the stage for the final breakdown in Lonavala. This trip, meant to be their special place, feels forced, hollow, and rehearsed. They take perfect pictures, but the perfection is completely devoid of emotion.
It's staged control. It's a visual representation of their relationship failing in real time.
The final verbal snap occurs during this forced holiday. Arjun, trying desperately to impose order onto chaos, criticizes her technique. "Hold the camera higher. Your angles are off."
And Mira finally finds her voice. She snaps back by connecting his technical critique to his personal failing. You were trying to control it, just like everything else. The camera, the landscape, the future, it all had to conform to his frame.
But the true liberation is immediate. Mira steps onto the balcony and photographs the storm wild, chaotic, beautiful, without a single thought about Arjun's approval. She embraces the messiness that she had rejected for so long.
And the thought that floods her mind, the crucial pivot point that sets her entire future in motion is, what if I stopped trying to fix something that was already broken? This is the decision to surrender the fantasy and accept the painful reality.
This radical clarity fuels her immediate action when the National Geographic internship offer lands 3 months across India. This is the absolute test. Will she choose the life she built with him or the life that destiny is offering her?
The restaurant fight is the inevitable explosion. Mira tries to soften the blow, but Arjun immediately translates her success into his loss. What about us? What about the apartment we were going to rent?
He frames her dream as a profound betrayal of his secure, predictable future.
And then comes the definitive, final insult. He declares, I loved the girl who took pictures for fun, not the woman who would throw everything away for a camera. He confesses that he only loved the small, non-threatening version of her, and this gives Mira the final, unshaking defense she needs. Every dream I have, you turn into a betrayal. Every opportunity is a test of my love for you. I'm suffocating. That is the sound of her authentic self, just fighting for air.
Now we arrive at the climax, the scene that Swapnil crafted for maximum emotional violence, the broken promise. And we should really dissect this for its visceral, shattering impact. Arjun arrives at her hostel, drunk, desperate, and holding the single most important object in her life.
Her father's treasured Polaroid camera. This camera is more than a tool. It represents her legacy, her authenticity, her deep-seated connection to her father and her true self. It's everything.
And Mira stands firm. She's achieved total self-possession, stating clearly, I'm choosing myself. This declaration of autonomy, this ultimate rejection of his control is what triggers his final destructive act. The CRH is described as total annihilation. He throws the camera against the wall.
And the text emphasizes the shattering of glass, of plastic, of memory. This is not just a breakup. It is a symbolic execution of her past identity, carried out by the person who tried to suppress it.
And the emotional violence of the act is compounded by the physical detail. Glass shards cut her palm, and blood trickles. This is not a clean split. It is a wound that leaves a visible, permanent scar.
The scar that we see years later as the silver streak in Ananya's hair.
Exactly. The breakage is necessary, but it is deeply physically painful.
That moment of total destruction, though, is what sets her free. Her response is firm, unshaking, final. We're done. She walks through Mumbai, but she is a different woman now. She walks past the illuminated art gallery she had previously overlooked, too consumed by him.
And she sends those two critical emails, accepting the National Geographic internship and asking to assist with workshops.
And the chapter ends on the perfect note of painful triumph and self-acceptance, whispered to her own reflection. Hi, it's nice to finally meet you again. The past is shattered, but the true self, the autonomous artist, is finally whole, present, and ready to walk into the future. The emotional violence was the necessary catalyst to eliminate the fear that was holding her captive.
Okay, so we make the leap now into Act 4, closure, wisdom, and the reveal. We jump forward 5 years. Mira is now living her true destiny, thriving as a successful National Geographic photographer, standing at a grand Mumbai wedding, confident and secure in who she is.
And the narrative brings Arjun back into her orbit. He reappears, and the text is so careful to detail his transformation. Changed, calmer, more confident, with gray hair around his temples. That small detail is profoundly important.
What do you make of the gray hair?
The gray symbolizes hard-earned wisdom. It suggests that he, too, went through a necessary process of breakdown and reconstruction during those intervening years. This wasn't just her story.
His approach is respectful, not possessive. And his words confirm his shift when he praises her article on disappearing street artists, showing he actively follows and respects her career, the very thing he once dismissed as trivial.
And that validates her entire journey. It proves he has done the work to recognize and respect her professional soul.
It's crucial, I think, to highlight Arjun's personal transformation as much as Mira's. He admits to spending 3 years in therapy, learning about his control issues and abandonment fears.
Which reveals the deep narrative truth, doesn't it? Their relationship wasn't ruined by a lack of love, but by his pathology. The breakup wasn't merely Mira leaving. It was the catalyst for his growth and accountability. He had to face the inner demons that made him try to cage the people he loved.
And then comes the tangible moment of atonement, the gift of acceptance. Arjun gives Mira a small, neatly wrapped package. Inside is a vintage Polaroid camera, the exact model he broke.
And this isn't simply a physical replacement. It's a symbolic act of taking full accountability for the emotional damage he inflicted on her sense of self and her legacy.
His apology is so powerful because it demands nothing in return. He just says, I know it doesn't change the past, but I needed you to know. I get it now, what I did, who I was.
It's an admission of personal failure and growth. It confirms that the person she is now, Ananya, is safe from the person he used to be. The story now transcends mere heartbreak and becomes a genuine story of mutual, though separate, evolution.
And they share one last, delicate moment. The dance for closure. They dance not to reignite the flame, but to acknowledge the shared history and the necessary pain, transforming the intense heartbreak into a quiet, accepted past.
And Mira realizes she captured closure, not just through the interaction, but literally in a photograph she snaps of the moment. The final framing of the completed narrative.
Which brings us back, full circle, to the high-altitude bonfire. The friends are captivated. Ananya finally gives voice to her secret. I wasn't always Ananya. I used to be someone else.
And she shows them the old faded Polaroid of her and Arjun on the rooftop, and Rohan is the one to whisper the name. That's you. You're Mira.
The name change. It was initially an attempt to escape, to be someone stronger, thinking she needed a fresh identity to cope with the SARS. But she realizes that the strength was always there. She just needed the space and the traumatic catalyst to access it. Ananya isn't a new person. She is Mira, fully realized.
Her final reflection on Arjun provides the ultimate piece of earned wisdom from Swapnil's narrative. Love doesn't always stay the same. Sometimes it hurts. It's about teaching you what you need to grow. Their love story was ultimately a painful but necessary mechanism for both of them to evolve toward authenticity.
And the knowledge becomes communal. We get the group reflection around the dying embers. Rohan, listening intently, realizes he needs to apply this to his own life. He decides he needs to learn to let go of his past relationship with Sarah.
And Priya, the insightful friend, notes that the real risk isn't in loving deeply, but in never letting ourselves grow through it. The relationship ending wasn't the failure. The failure would have been staying small and stifled to prevent the inevitable break.
And Ravi, who sort of represents that part of all of us that fears vulnerability, asks about the pain. How can you avoid it? And Ananya's response is the final essential lesson for the listener.
What does she say?
She says, pain's part of it. The trick is to see it as a teacher, not a punishment. Every heartbreak, every scar, it's part of the story of who you are. The gray hair and the silver streak are proof of lessons learned.
The final beautiful image is Ananya taking a last photograph of the group at dawn, capturing the exact moment when the night turns to day. It's so symbolic of transition, healing, and hope. Swapnil leaves us with the synthesizing thought that defines the entire narrative. Love isn't about holding on or letting go. It's about learning to love yourself through it all.
Mhm.
The core enduring love story, the only one that truly matters in the end, is the one with oneself.
What a profound and emotionally resonant blueprint for self-discovery this narrative provides. We've been taken on a journey that moved from the innocence of cutting chai and shared sunsets to the absolute necessity of the crash, the shattering of that camera, and finally to the quiet, powerful piece of self-acceptance years later.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship with Arjun wasn't a failure. It was the essential, painful catalyst that forced Mira to become Ananya, the whole, authentic person she was meant to be.
And that is the power of Swapnil's storytelling. It reframes the central lesson of heartbreak. It beautifully reiterates that every ending is just a new beginning, and that the real work is always internal. The power of this deeply felt account lies in the transformation of suffering, seeing pain and heartbreak not as a punishment or a detour, but as a mandatory, unavoidable step toward finding our true, strong foundation.
It forces you to re-examine those high-intensity, high-drama relationships in your own life. Sometimes the person or the situation that breaks you, the relationship that required you to shrink yourself, is actually the force that ultimately compels you to build a stronger, more authentic structure for the future.
Absolutely. We started with the question of unforgettable stories, and this narrative confirms that the most unforgettable ones are those that fundamentally change us. We learn that some stories aren't meant to be frozen in time, like that initial perfect shot Mira tried to take.
Right.
They are meant to be lived, messy, and imperfect, just like the real photo of the two empty chai cups. The objective is not preservation, the objective is growth.
So we leave you with this final provocative thought to mull over. We all carry artifacts from our past, metaphorical cameras, memories, old expectations. What camera, or what relationship, or what version of yourself are you currently holding on to? Desperately trying to fix or frame in a way that aligns with an old, comfortable idea. And when is the right time to recognize the breakage, accept the scar, and start shooting the next, completely unknown and potentially terrifyingly authentic chapter of your own story?